Hey, good morning. Good morning, my YouTube family. How's everybody doing today? Just waking up, starting my morning. They got me on another shitty load out of Chicago. I told this dispatcher to stop sending me here. We had a whole conversation about it yesterday. He was trying to give me pushback, and then he was like, if you don't take the next load, we're gonna have you sitting. So I was like, all right, well, I'll take this next load, but I'm not coming back out here because y'all keep putting me on these live loads. I get stuck at the shipper, I get stuck at the receiver. They don't pay you for sitting for 2 hours. They only pay you after 2 hours. So I'm losing 4 hours of productive work and I'm not getting paid for it. So I like the dropping hooks. That's what y'all hired me for. Y'all said it's mostly dropping hooks. Now you're sending me over to this big city where the people are crazy, the drivers be driving crazy. Chicago is like a whole nother breed. I don't know how to explain it. These people out here. I'm having my potato tot breakfast. When I first wake up, I'm usually not that hungry, but just so I don't get a headache, I will have to put something in my stomach along with my coffee. So that's what I'm doing. I got a few minutes and then I got a boogie. So to me, Chicago is harder to drive than New York. In some aspects. There's a lot of bridges here that I'm not familiar with. I'm familiar with New York City, so I know what highways, what bridges and stuff like that. Like, I don't do the Belt Parkway. I do 278. I know which bridges I could go on. Even though they'll have the signs, low bridges. Some bridges in New York, I understand them. So I know that I could still go under that bridge because I had an account out there at the airport. But I don't want to drive like that no more. I don't like that stressful type of driving. And the people here in Chicago, a lot of the foreigners, I guess they're probably Russian. They kind of scary, yo. Like, like New York people, they be having attitude problems when they on the road. But like Chicago, they look like they don't have no problem going off a mountain with you. Like, they look like they will go all the way there. I feel like a New Yorker will still have a little bit of limits depending on the situation. You feel me? But like in Chicago, I be feeling like, y'all could have it. You know, you want me to move out the way? I'm moving out your way. These guys look like they be on cocaine and they be go, 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 go. Like, move out of the way. They will beep the horn, give you the bird, scream at you. Yeah. And then the traffic, I always end up, I try to drive at night because like I stopped driving around 12:30 at night, so that did help, but the traffic was still very heavy. But you know, the delivery time is always in the daytime, so I can't get around that. I'm not a reefer. I feel like I'm driving reefer now because I'm like, but at least with reefer you're making the money. You make more than dry van. So I'm like, y'all gotta stop giving me these live loads. It's not gonna work for me. I know the market is bad, but y'all can find better loads than this. I feel like they're giving it to me because I'm not really the type to refuse loads. But this time, I'm gonna start refusing loads. And he tried to punish me by saying, well, we're gonna have you sitting. So that way I'm forced to take it. So I was like, well, I spoke with you before about these live loads. Y'all hired me to do dropping hooks. So you couldn't really argue with that. So he was like, all right, take this load. We'll get you out of there. And then we won't, send you back. But my thing is, he's not always on shift. And they might have another dispatcher that might try to pull the okie doke on me. Anyways, let me get to my point of this. Anyways. Lately, I know I've been ranting, and that's because people request to see what's going on in my trucking life. So everything is not always going to be peachy creamy, and I'm not always going to be like, hey, praise the Lord, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to be having some days where it's like, oh my gosh. But I still try to be positive throughout it all, if that makes sense. So yesterday I got to the shipper and I was pulling in, and it was like a long driveway to get inside, so you don't really see, I didn't really see how the setup was. So they had a guardrail, like a type of rail that was kind of like pointing outwards, so when you coming in you got to turn wide. So I didn't see that, so I'm seeing that there's another truck coming towards me to leave, like it's a two-way lane. But the way this guardrail was kind of positioned outwards, it would require me to kind of go into the other lane just a little bit to kind of get my tail away. If I would have known that it was there prior, I would have came in a little bit more leaning to the other lane. But since I didn't know, I was just driving kind of close, so I couldn't really do nothing because the truck was coming out. So when I saw that my trailer was about to clip the guardrail, I was like, I immediately like stopped the truck and I waited for the guy to move. He didn't move right away because he wanted to stare at me in the truck. I guess he being nosy, he want to see what's going on. So I just waved to him so that he can keep moving. So he left, and then I had to like reposition the truck a little bit just to get around that curve. So the security guard, he was sitting there watching me, right? He was watching the whole situation or whatever, because he was waiting for me to get in so that he could check me in. Hold on, let me fix my curtain. He was waiting for me to check in, right? So he's staring at me, the security guard. So I don't like to prejudge a situation, so I didn't know if he was mad that I was taking a minute to get past the guardrail. Hold on. It's time for me to roll out. So I didn't know if he was mad that I was taking so long to pull in. So I pull up and I say, hey, how you doing? I'm always friendly when I go in, unless I'm really upset about something. Then I may not speak. So I spoke to him, and there was a truck that he had just finished checking out his paperwork on the other side. So I think it was a Swift driver, and he beeped the horn at me. And he made a joke. I don't know what he said. I can't remember, but it was in reference to me trying to get past that curb. And he was like, I see you, girl. What you was trying to do? Something like that. So I was joking with him back, from across. And the security guard looking at me like, so that's when I seen him turn his lips up, I realized he was gay. So he was like, so I said, I'm sorry I took so long to come in. It was a little bit of a battle with that curb. And he was like, girl, they all hit that curb, girl, or whatever, right? So I was like, oh, okay, he seemed cool. He was of I think he was Latino, if I'm not mistaken. He looked Latino, I'm guessing. So the guy in the truck, he wasn't leaving. He was just sitting there watching me and him. So then he was like, oh, you women get all the attention. I mean, dang, can I get some of that attention? Like, I be trying to flirt with these guys, and soon as a female come in, they don't be paying me no mind. I was like, what did I just walk into? So then he was like, so I said, oh, you talking about the guy that's flirting with me over there? And he was like, I know you get that all day, girl. I mean, damn, can they share something? Can you share something with me? Can you give me some of that? And I'm like, you can gladly have it. He was like, damn, that make me so mad. I be trying to smile at them. I'm like, well, maybe they're not gay, But I just wanted to share that with y'all. It was crazy. Got the poor gay man mad at me. I'm like, I ain't even do nothing to him. He was nice, but he was like, he looked like he was like irritated that, the guy was talking to me and not him. But it is what it is. Anyways, on another note, I want to talk about conditioning. and how we as humans, we are bred to be basically told what to do. There's different levels of conditioning. Sorry that I'm chewing, but I gotta get ready to get out of here, and my clock is almost ready. There's different levels of conditioning, and we as humans, as much as we want to say, oh, we do things the way we want to do it, we have free will, to a certain extent, you don't really utilize your free will on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? You follow rules, you follow laws, you follow policies, and then you follow conditioning. And we all do it to one another. We condition one another, right? It's natural. Now, I had written some notes because this is what I'm currently studying is, hold on. This man was trying to look in my window, so I had to like ease back a little bit. Anyways, he was trying to get my attention. We as humans, we condition one another, sometimes intentionally and sometimes not so intentionally, right? But I'm bringing this video to kind of let you know, like, you got to be careful in dealing with people, especially when you're learning people and you're trying to get to know somebody, whether it's like a sexual or romantic relationship or just in general, that you got to understand what the person's intentions are. If they're genuinely trying to connect with you or if they're trying to condition you. So if you go to a job interview, I'm just giving you an example, and I want to try to hurry up and make it fast, and I hope I don't be all over the place because I do got to go. I will make some serious videos talking about this conditioning stuff, because it's really a lot, and it can get deep. When you go on a job interview, back in the day, they will ask you generic questions about your personality traits. Tell me about yourself. And the person will say, I work hard. I like people. I like to help. These are generic trait questions. It tells me that you possess those traits. However, as companies started losing employees, or they started hiring really bad employees, they was like, hold up. You told me that you like people. You told me that you smile a lot. You told me that you like to work hard. Ma'am, sir, I don't see none of those traits being utilized at this company that we hired you for. What the hell is the deal? And they realized that it's not about just your traits. It's about your state. States of traits change based off of situations. So your state is like how your state of mind is in a particular situation. For example, a regular, mild-tempered person placed in a situation of high stress may become aggressive. That doesn't necessarily mean that's their base trait or their dominant trait, but being pushed in a certain situation, they may act a way that they normally wouldn't. Or the trait has to be motivated in that particular situation to feel like they want to utilize that trait. So a trait doesn't mean it's going to predict the behavior. So a person with a good trait doesn't mean they will have good behavior. So when they hire these employees, they're like, okay, let's start asking them situational questions versus tell me about yourself questions. Let's start asking them about a situation. So they'll ask you a question like, let's say you're going for a customer service job, and they want to know, what would you do if you were placed in a situation where a customer called you all kind of names under the book because they needed a refund, and you didn't have all the answers at that time, but you knew that you could go get the manager who may possibly have those answers, but you got to first get through the stage of them cursing you the hell out. What are you going to do? So they may ask you a situational question to see how do you respond under extreme pressure. So now that gets you to understand a little bit more about your behavior and how you utilize your traits. That's how they understand how to hire people to keep better employees now. They're like, okay, so a person might answer the question and say, I don't know what I would do. this is a person that is not well-rounded, they might say, oh, I don't know, and they stuttering. That will let the employee know you may react erratically because you don't know yourself. You don't know. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should know exactly what they will do in any given situation, but you should have a general idea of your stability on your emotions, if you're able to stabilize yourself if you're placed in a particular situation. So they started asking these questions to get a better understanding of people. Another example, you go on a date and you're asking the person that you're dating only questions about their personality, like what type of food do you like, what type of music do you like, what type of women do you like, what type of men do you like, you know what I mean? It's going to give you a general idea of their traits, but if you really want to get to know them, ask them a specific situational questions. If you were in a relationship with somebody and y'all were dating for a long time and y'all fell in love, but the job that they wanted to take made them have to leave the city that y'all live in, would you still date them? If not, why? If you're placed in a frustrating situation where you can't communicate something to your spouse, but because you know it might be a conflict of interest at your job, how do you tell your spouse that you can't tell them without making them mad? These are questions that people don't ask from other people because, one, a lot of people be trying to hide who they really are. So when you start asking those situational questions, it may make them uncomfortable, and then you're like, oh, I just triggered you. So that is a sign that when you're triggered under pressure from questions, this is how you may act in certain situations when it's time to communicate. You got to get to that point where you start asking people situational questions. What would you do? How would you handle this? Why would you say this? It's like it opens up the door to get to their core, their inner nature. Now, of course, you're gonna have people that are like psychopaths who already planned how they're gonna answer questions because they know they're gonna target a person, so they're gonna be like, have all the answers. They may have all the right answers, right? But this is just like the first stage. There's different stages of getting to know people. Then there's another thing called operating conditioning, classical conditioning. These are things where you associate something with the behavior. So if you want somebody to do something, you may do positive reinforcement, you may do negative reinforcement. Now, I don't want to get into all the details of it because it is a lot, but just understand this is a cause and a reaction with these type of conditionings. So, for example, let's say you don't like to study. Oh no, I'm gonna give you another one. You remember back in the day, your parents, you knew it was time to do chores. The parents was like, okay, today is my day off. I'm gonna clean the house. We're gonna do some spring cleaning. You notice they always put on good ass oldies music or Marvin Gaye, some real soul, spiritual, uplifting music, whether it was gospel. You trying to get some sleep, but they want to clean the house. So they've conditioned themselves to use a stimuli like good music to correlate that with house cleaning. So that's a form of conditioning. You associate good music with cleaning. So now as you get older, when you hear the good old music like, let's get it on, you start thinking about your family barbecues. You start thinking about your mama cleaning the house, your daddy in the backyard, raking the grass, whatever. You associate those songs with good old times. That is a form of conditioning. So that's operating conditioning. When you're dealing with people, especially narcissist people, abusers, borderline trait people, some of them don't know that they're conditioning you because they're conditioned themselves. They've been conditioned for years to be a certain way. So they may not really know that they're purposely conditioning you. But when they see the reactions that they get out of when they see the reaction they can get out of training you, it gives them a high. So on top of getting the supply, they're getting an adrenaline by your reactions. So you as the human, when you're being classically conditioned or operating conditioned, you're not your conscious mind is not in tune with what's happening, because they're training the reflexes, they're training the physiological needs on you, they're training the things that you're not in tune with every day. So when you get hungry, your stomach starts to growl. It gives you a physiological need that you're not really paying attention to until the growl gets louder, or the urge of hunger pains tell you get up and make something to eat. So when you're dealing with people that triggers those physiological needs, you're not thinking about it until it's too late. You're not thinking about it until your heart is broken. You're not thinking about it until you're angry and you're not understanding why are you reacting this way. It's because all the other impulses that you wasn't paying attention to are now screaming out loud, something is wrong. So they've conditioned you to the point where you have no control over those impulses, and that's where you may start acting out. You may start acting unusual. Now you're put in a state. So now your traits don't match your normal everyday pattern of behavior. So when you're being in an abusive relationship, your state of mind, your whole state, your being, it now becomes a different way of handling things. So your normal traits are going to be out of whack. It's kind of like when your hormones get out of balance. It's the same thing when you're dealing with an abuser that has conditioned you to deal with the abuse, but you're still staying with them. And then another thing that can happen is you start to play their game where you become an abuser too. So y'all now become toxic together, and you're like in an abusive relationship. So now what you do is you condition them to react to you. So you condition them like you're punishing. You start doing positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Try not to deal with people that only love with conditions. For example, if a female, because females tend to do this more than men, but narcissist men, oh, they play sexual games. They will hold sex from you, hold emotions from you as a form of, that's a form of negative reinforcement. They're going to take away something that you enjoy because they know it's going to make you feel bad. So you're thinking, well, what can I do so that doesn't happen again? So now you're going to do what's called avoiding the behavior. You're going to avoid certain things so that you can condition this person to give you back the love that they're taking away from you. Females do it too. They'll hold sex as a form of manipulation. So how you know someone's conditioning you versus just y'all having a bad argument or y'all just not getting along? It usually ends up in a pattern where it's a pattern of conditioning. So they'll do it, you change your behavior based off of it, they give you the reward. And it's like they keep doing that same way of treating you. It's like training a pet. You want the pet to stop peeing on the carpet, you would put the wee-wee pads, and when they pee on the wee-wee pad, you give them a biscuit. When they don't pee on the wee-wee pad, you yell at them or whatever you do to the pet, right? Hopefully it's not abuse. But, I mean, people do it too. They abuse the pet. And what happens? The pet has now been trained to behave a certain way when you come in the room. But then as soon as you leave the room, the pet goes back to its normal way of thinking if it's not too abused. Same thing with a human. When they come around the abuser, their personality change. When they're away from the abuser, and as long as they're not too far gone, they're like, okay, why am I having fun? Why am I laughing? But when I get around my abuser, I'm like, I'm like stuck on stupid, right? I mean, I don't want to say stupid. I'm stuck on freeze mode, flight or freeze or fight, right? So the stronger ones that are kind of fighting that feeling, they may tend to want to fight. So they may want to fight back the abuser and become just like the abuser. So now when an outsider is looking in, they looking at both of y'all as bad people when they're not realizing you are responding to the conditioning. You know what I'm saying? This person provoked you to become this way. And you're not realizing it because they've triggered signs, stimuli that's in you naturally that you really don't realize you have control over it. But since you're not aware of it, you don't realize you don't have control over it. For example, if you get hungry and you have hunger pains, you don't have control over the hunger pains, but you have control over stopping it. So before you get to that level of hunger, you may have to feed yourself because you know that's about to come. So now you condition yourself to eat at a certain time before the hunger kicks in. Same thing with an abusive relationship. You know that you normally wouldn't be in a freeze or flight mode, but now this person has triggered a response in you that will come naturally if put under those conditions. So you didn't know you would need to even feel those feelings before meeting this person. So now that you've been in this situation, you can recognize it in another situation moving forward. So that's why a person that has recovered from abuse can see a sign quicker than a person that's never been in those type of situations. That's why abusers tend to like young girls or young guys or people that have never really been through nothing, because they know that those people won't pick up the signs right away, and then they will not realize how far gone they are in the abuse because all their physiological needs are now dependent on that abuser. So now in order to function, they need those stimuli to be activated to feel like they're doing something they're supposed to do, which is be in that relationship with that person. So if I know, if I'm the abused victim and I'm with this person and they've already triggered all my, they call it defenses. They've already triggered all my defenses. I don't know that this person is a crazy person or whatever, right? I may start to feel like, okay, as long as I fix me, get control over my physiological stimuli that are being triggered, then this relationship can work, right? No, the reason why it's not working is because this person is purposely triggering those feelings. So if they're not going to stop triggering those feelings, you're going to always be in a state of fight or flight. But the young person or the person that's naive, they're not realizing what's going on. They're not realizing that this person is literally tearing down all your defense mechanisms, all your self-advocacy. You'll have literally no more self-advocacy. Self-advocacy means that you can accomplish something. You believe in whatever you got going on, that you can make it through a certain situation, right? It's kind of like a level of self-confidence. When you're not aware of you being in an abusive relationship, you don't have self-advocacy. You're realizing that you're relying on your abuser to give you that level of self-advocacy. Because now it's like all your emotions, all your triggers, all your impulses are being operated like a remote control by the abuser. You have now given your abuser all access to your mental, your psychological needs, your emotional needs, your spiritual needs. So when this person has this much power, they are able to condition you like a robot. If I say jump, you say how high. But being that you're in it, you're not realizing it. You're just going through the motion. So when this person says, for example, I don't like how you made my eggs, that's affecting your physical being, because you did something physically for them and they're now critiquing it. Then they may say, I don't like the way you hug and kiss. Now they're affecting your emotional needs. They stop hugging you because you did something to them earlier in the day that they didn't like. So now they're going to punish you at night and they don't want to hug you. So now they've affected your emotional needs. So now you're just a basket case of deregulated emotions. You're all over the place. And then most of the time with the narcissist and the psychopath, they'll turn around and say, see, look at you. You ain't got no control over yourself. Look how you act. You're crying all the damn time. You're yelling all the time. And you want to say that I'm the narcissist? No, look at you. Look at you. You've been conditioned to become their basket case. So now what they'll want you to do is Get a grip on yourself. But in order to get a grip, it's like an oxymoron. In order to get a grip on yourself and get control over yourself, get control over your self-efficacy again, and become your whole being that you're supposed to be, it will require you to separate from that person and become and use individuation. But a lot of people, when they blend with people, they become codependent. So now the individuation goes out the window. Individuation just means you are aware of you being a self and being a whole person without anyone else. That just means you are the self-dependent person, right? Independent person. Kind of like a child, when a child separates from the mama at 2 and they realize my mom is not me. Because all the needs of that child when they were like 1, they thought the mother and that 1-year-old, they thought that the 1-year-old thought that they were one. They was like, if I want to eat, mommy feeds me. But what happens is sometimes mommy can't get to the baby in time and the baby gets frustrated. And it's like, why isn't mommy coming when my needs need to be met? But it's not saying to themselves, why isn't mommy coming? What they're saying is, why am I not being fed? What's preventing me from being fed? So when the baby gets older, it realizes, oh, it's another human being that's feeding me. So my needs are being relied on by someone else. So as the child grows, it realizes, oh, I have to start making my own decisions. That's why you get the rebellious teens, because at that stage, they fully understand they are their own path. And it's a scary feeling for teenagers. They don't know what they want to do. You got the teachers asking them 50,000 questions about, well, what do you want to be when you become an adult? And it's like, ma'am, she or he may not know because they haven't been an adult yet. You're asking somebody something that they don't have a clue of how that works. So of course they may say, I don't know, a taxi cab driver? And you're like, why would you want to be a taxi driver? And it's like, you asked me a question, I'm answering it. They're looking at it as question and answer. They're not saying my whole life is about to change, but they have this little gnawing thing in the back of them saying, your life about to change and shit about to get real. So they start to feel anxiety and they start to feel depression. And then we as parents and adults, we beat on them and say, you got to figure it out. It's not, you're conditioning them to hate becoming an adult. This is all part of conditioning. You have to understand all of this changes and trains the mind for good, I won't say good, for negative or positive. You got to always remember, put the word positive before everything you do, everything you think, in order to get the result you're trying to achieve. Stay stable in your emotions. If you find that you're in situations where people are conditioning you, remember, you have to still stay stable in your emotional regulation. Once you start to let people get inside of that part of you, whether it's your emotions, your thought patterns, your physical, your survival instinct, anything that can trigger, you gotta remember, anybody that can trigger you can deprogram your computer. That's your brain. If they triggered you, they can deprogram you. So now you change your state of being to suit the situation. I want to get further into it, but it's so many like compartments to understanding behavioral change. First of all, it's like, okay, so when therapy starts for people that have issues, they do things called behavioral therapy, right? So with behavioral therapy, you have to figure out, why is the person, because you're trying to get the person to either change or to stay consistent with a situation. You have to try to figure out, well, why in the beginning part is the person not able to do that? They have correlated something negative with whatever's happening. For example, a person with obsession of food. They may have correlated food as a cushion for their depression, or a cushion for their loneliness, or a cushion for their lack of esteem as to why they didn't, why their body don't look the way they thought it should look, right? Same thing with people with bad attitudes. You may have to condition the person to understand, stop correlating everything that happens to you as it has to affect your attitude. if that makes sense. For example, when I went into the shipper that yesterday, when the gay guy was looking at me side eye, like, I could have taken it like the old me. I could have taken it like, is there a problem? And I could have gave him that energy, but I didn't have to, because first, I didn't have all the facts. I didn't know what was going on. So what I did was I asked him first. I said, I'm sorry, am I holding you up? And I made it very lighter. I lightened the mood for the scenario to see first, are you coming at me, or are you just, you know what I'm saying? And I seen that that's just his disposition. He just was like, you know, he's just sassy. So I realized, oh, he's not a threat to me. So you gotta, when you're doing behavioral changes, you have to assess the whole situation as to what do you correlate events and states of condition. How do you correlate it with your thinking? So now you have to understand, okay, now I have to reprogram how I associate things. So it's not about reprogramming your traits, because your traits are basically who you are. So for example, a narcissist, right? You could put me and a narcissist in a room together, right? She might have the same traits as me. Extroverted, openness, but she's utilizing the traits based off of the situation that she has attached her feelings to life. So if she's attached her feelings to life as everybody hates me, everybody's out to get me, even though she might be an extrovert, she's going to use those traits to hurt people. Does that make sense? So yeah, anyways, I gotta go. It was nice talking to y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed my little chit chat. Love y'all. Talk to you soon.